very good. Okay. So if we could just maybe close our eyes or turn our gaze inward and welcome our experience in the sanctity of silence, the sanctity of presence. Which is love. The unconditional welcoming which we are. Allowing the bygone to be bygone. And recognizing ourself and our entire experience. To be this wondrous presence. God's light and magnificence. Appearing as these body minds. We are invited to the recognition that I am not an object which appears. Rather, I am this wondrous knowingness, this wondrous recognition of I am, this transparent, aware presence, which has no names, no form, no gender. In the inner silence of presence, there are no objects. just pure beingness. Which is not something that appears and disappears. Which is not the body. I am this silent stillness. Which appears as body, mind, and world. All bodies, all worlds, all minds. Without ever precipitating myself as a body or a mind or a universe. I am capable of taking on the form of water, ice, or vapor, while remaining H2O. I can take on the form of rivers and oceans and streams and lakes, rain and hail, while remaining H2O. I take on the form of various bodies, various minds. Which is my creativity, my infinite creativity. And within my creation, I realize myself to be that which I have always been. The infinite, the eternal. It is our path as human beings to come to this understanding, come to this realization. Our love for peace and happiness is built in within us and leads us to the Garden of Eden. I am is unveiled. Pure I am, pure beingness, awareness. The pathway, the gateway to our true nature, I am. Without adding on this or that. The understanding that I am stands on its own, does not require this or that. This or that, the world, body, mind, requires I am, requires my reality. But my reality, the I am, does not require worlds, bodies, and minds. Whenever you experience peace and happiness, the mind is still. The silence within is undisturbed. The clouds that appear in the wide open sky seem to color the sky gray, white. They appear to give the wide open sky a shape, a form. A brief parting of the clouds reveals that the sky is not defined by the clouds, which come and go. You are not a cloud that comes and goes. Thoughts may be, sensations come and go. Mind impressions come and go. You remain in the formless presence. Which neither comes nor goes. The peace of being does not reside in that which comes and goes. It resides in your knowingness as the eternal and infinite. Borderless, aware presence. Okay, so if you have any questions, anything that you would like to explore, please make sure to unmute yourself, and you're welcome to turn on your video. So any questions? Hello, Holger.
Hello, Magdi. Can you say something about procrastination?
The only procrastination which is of interest to me is to postpone your investigation and your inquiry into truth. You know, in the world body-mind, there are so many rules and regulations. Some are logical and make sense, and some others are exaggerated. Maybe they come from our culture, about how we should be, things we should achieve, things we should accomplish. You know, in some cultures, there are very high level of expectation, depending on how we grow up. We internalize all these internal pressures, you know, that we have to sort of produce something or become somebody or prove something to our society or to our parents or to our teachers or to our friends. Of course, there is the aspect of food, shelter, and clothing, and the survival mechanism is available to all of us equally. And we have a freedom to navigate our pursuit of food, shelter, and clothing, whichever way we want. It doesn't really matter. It's our personal freedom. And sometimes we are very judgmental of ourselves. We have certain standards for ourselves. And I think it's okay to set some goals, but then life may interfere. So we navigate between our goals and our inner drive and life, how life is presenting itself. So I'm not much into self-judgment that I'm procrastinating or you are procrastinating. With my kids, I never had this sort of relationship. And with myself, although at times I pushed myself really hard when I was an entrepreneur, but that came from my inner interest in achieving certain goals. But there is judgment in procrastination, which I'm not sure it's appropriate. It's definitely not happy. But when it comes to non-duality, when we hear the message, and we hear it, when we hear it, that means it touched us. There is a hearing where it touches you. When we hear the message, which is a rare message about true happiness, about causeless happiness, and we continue to live according to the model of the egoic model of me, my life, my family, my tribe, my personality. we are also exerting our freedom to maintain the unhappiness. But given that here we are working together to row the canoe in the right direction, I would say it's so easy to return to your mind, to your stories, to your feelings. It's always there available for you, but it repeats itself endlessly. Sooner or later, you've got to contemplate, wait a minute, am I perceiving from the correct perspective? So this question has to be posed by yourself to yourself. The correct perspective is the perspective that is based on what is true, what is real. And in our experience, that which is true, that which is real is awareness. Meaning it's real in that it is not changing in time and space. The body is, the mind is, the world is. But awareness is not changing in time and space. It's not subject to the external or the internal weather. So once we turn our attention to reality, to truth, that which does not come and go, we need to continue in that direction. So the spiritual procrastination would be to come to a glimpse that I refers to awareness, and to return in your life to I, me, Magdi, my mind, my property, my duties. That's not the right direction. That would be spiritual procrastination. And it can go on forever. You can be procrastinating. And what's available to all of us equally is to think and perceive and act as the globality, as the wholeness, as the totality, as consciousness.
Thank you.
And that is available to us 24/7, you see. And in particular, when certain small irritations arise to us, to notice at that particular moment of irritation, I am adopting the model that I am this person, I am this woman, this man, I have been wronged by the other. Things should be better for me, things should be otherwise for me being this body mind. We're adopting the model of the limited mortal body mind. And that has consequences. life is about happiness. If you're happy to procrastinate, then procrastinate. Sometimes I like to procrastinate, but maybe sometimes people around me, they don't like it, and so my happiness becomes unhappiness, so I get up. So wait a minute. I was happy procrastinating, but now I am no longer happy procrastinating with all these unhappy people around me. So let me get on with it.
It's just, in a way, like I look at circumstances from a theoretical level sometimes, and there everything should be much faster and much easier. And I'm disconnected from the body-mind world, where there are just resistances, delays, and that's just.
But this could be also some of the way your mind functions, that you have some skills to sort of move through structures faster. Yes, the world is operating at the pace that it's operating. But I think it's okay to sort of be experiencing these possibilities of faster or a more fluid navigation. It's okay. Then it could be some of the skills of this particular body mind that we call hunger. I don't know, I'm speaking theoretically, of course.
But there's also resistance then, and I'm not aware what it is, what's resisting in me, and this is just, but it's all working out. I mean, it's not.
But resistance is interesting because it's an opportunity for you to sort of notice that in resistance there is a subject and an object. There is a personal desire for things to be different. And these personal desires, we feel them as a resistance in the body. And this resistance, these desires, is what we refer to as the separate self. It's these desires, this activity of resisting, of the thoughts about things should be different, that we refer to as me. So, but whenever these thoughts are sort of seen to be void of power, in other words, when you don't give them the power, when they're seen to be vibrations, energetic, cosmic vibrations, somehow they lose their personal power. And they no longer disturb. They become like, oh, it's just a thought passing through. Things should be different. The world should be a beautiful place. People should not throw trash on the highway. Human beings should love each other. We should not clean the ocean. We should not pollute the ocean. There are thoughts, and and many of them are noble thoughts. But the resistance is when a thought has power over consciousness. And the thought has no power over consciousness except for the power that you give it. And the same thing with the feelings. Usually we can sort of dance our way around thoughts, but feelings is where we get stuck, or it's a little bit more syrupy, a little bit more sticky.
Thank you.
So it's helpful to perceive that the thoughts that appear to you are not your thoughts. They're the universe's thoughts. universe thoughts. They belong to the universe. Like thunder or lightning or rain or the wind or the sunshine. All of that belongs to the universe. Like your heart pumping and your liver functioning, and all of that belongs to the universe.
It's quite amazing.
I know, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mind blowing, you know. Right.
Thank you.
Hello, Magdi, John.
Hello, John.
Hi. I was laughing at you guys talking about this and procrastination, and you're laughing. And also the mind blowing, because I've always been. I used to go to therapy where we talked about my procrastination. And there was good stuff in the relative world. There's good stuff because, there was an old model. One could say that I was following, whereas I procrastinate because that felt better, even though it didn't feel better, because the insanity is the me was criticizing the other me, or whatever. There's so many me's, and it's a little bit insane. But long story short is that, so it used to bother me, and in some ways I liked that, apparently. And in order, if I did things, then I would feel good, and I wasn't supposed to feel good, and so forth and so on. So there's a therapy thing, there's the mind stuff, and there's the conditioning, we can say, and things that happen unconsciously, And but when I started going to the non-duality, your group, because I started with your group, and I followed you, this inquiry has been, the beautiful thing about it has been that it's been mind-blowing. That it breaks apart the conditioning, and it's not so much that that's what I have to try to do, because that's what me will want to do. So I better break, I'm going to use the non-duality, appropriate the non-duality. I use it to break apart this, and I'll become a better person, and so forth and so on. But the thing that I think that really, maybe I should say, that begins to see that is part of the path, the direct seeing, is seeing that all that subject object, all that me stuff, okay, that consciousness has always been aware of it. Consciousness is aware of all, and that I began to, things just started dropping because it started to blow apart that too. Even the thoughts, like I'd have a thought about I'm procrastinating, and then it would, like, I couldn't keep it because I was inquiring into the thought and letting it be. Yes. And it would just, like, I don't know, like a cloud changes shapes, it would change shape and it would separate, or it split apart, or whatever. And it couldn't maintain itself. Right. But so it couldn't add on other ones. Yes. And it seems like in the body mind stuff, that's exactly how it works. Mm-hmm. The chemistry, whatever it is. Just one hits the other, one hits the circuitry, goes bam, 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 and one is sort of what they say unconscious about it. Yeah. It goes on. So the being still and standing as awareness, and it would blow apart. So things would just drop, and I'd find myself moving and doing things. And at first I thought, wow, I'm doing good, thanks to the non-duality. That is me again. And it was still, it was happy in a way, but as time went on, it's just that it's done. It's just done. And there's a liking of doing it. There's well, you would say it then. There's a happiness in doing it. And that's not a me. That's just not, so anyway, I just wanted to share that. That kind of thing. Thank you.
That's sharing. I like that. That's beautiful. Yes. The image that comes to mind is, I don't know how to call this game where sort of, there is a structure, and you remove one thing, and then you remove another thing really carefully, and then at some point you're removing something else, and the whole thing collapses. You know, and
yeah.
it's a game of sticks or something.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. Thanks for sharing, John. Any questions?
Hi, Magdi. This is Hari.
Hello, Hari.
Yeah. About like generally when like you ask like non-dualist like advice, they say there's no you to do anything. There's like nothing to do, but yet like as a person you're making choices. I know like it all. I mean, I don't know. There's a whole concept of free will, like, and the whole thing. But you still feel like you're doing things, and you are making a choice, like attending this thing, attending this meeting, or
Yes.
like opening the laptop. Like how? Yeah, I don't understand the whole like lack of free will, concept like that clearly.
Yes, Hari. There is some misunderstanding sometimes, in the non-duality, which is that there is no one doing anything and nothing to do. So I don't speak much this way. Now, in terms of there is no one doing anything, it is referring to there is no personal doer, there is no personal self doing, and there is no personal chooser. And then you ask yourself, well, who is speaking right now, or who is decided to attend this meeting? And conventionally we say, okay, well, I chose to attend this meeting, right? I mean, we both agree that I chose, so I am the chooser, and I did sign up for this meeting, so I am also the doer. So I am the chooser and I am the doer. So how can Advaita be saying there is no one doing and nothing being done? It's not correct. There is a doing and there is a choosing, and that doer and that chooser is I. But that's where the difference comes in. I is not Hari. Hari is the instrument. There is an instrument, a body-mind, which we call Hari. There is an instrument, a body-mind, which we call Magdi, etc. So yes, there are body-minds, there are instruments. But is it the instrument that is doing? Is it the instrument that is choosing? When you take a look at what is it that is doing and that is choosing, you may come to the understanding that the doing and the choosing is not being done by the instrument Hari or by the instrument Magdi, but it's being done by consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So the question is, what is I? Obviously, I am speaking, I am being, what is I? I is the one that perceives, I perceive. Now, I perceive the colors, various colors, because the instrument is not colorblind. But let's say that the instrument could not perceive yellow. Then when I would look at the sun, as a metaphor, I don't see the sun because I cannot, the instrument, the body-mind instrument cannot perceive yellow. There are some body minds, I heard about that, that cannot experience pain. I don't know, have you ever heard about that, Hari?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah.
I heard of some body minds that cannot experience pain, and it's very dangerous because the body mind can, the instrument can therefore accidentally put their arm in the fire, and they don't experience the pain, and they lose their arm. So the thing is that to really comprehend, and this is an important understanding in Advaita, that what I refers to, there is a perceiver, there is a doer, but it is not the instrument. A good metaphor for that, Hari, is the metaphor of the bird watcher. The bird watcher uses a binoculars, I don't know, 7x or 10x binoculars to perceive the birds in the forest. Now, it's not the binoculars that perceive. The binocular is an instrument that is useful for perceiving the birds. So the bird watcher uses the binoculars in order to perceive the birds. But the bird watcher does not need the binoculars to be the bird watcher. You follow? You don't need the binoculars to be that which you are. So consciousness knows itself. I know myself as the bird watcher. I know myself as I, as awareness, as presence. And of course, I use the word body mind to perceive and to sense. You follow?
Yeah. So like then like what follows, like what action, like who, so what should I do, like as like I don't know, like what do it, or do we do things, or do we still do things, or just yeah.
It depends. You don't need to do anything if there is nothing that needs to be done. But if you get hungry, in other words, if you become aware of the hunger which belongs to the body, or if you notice that the gauge, there is a red light in your car that's blinking saying oil service, then it would make sense to change the oil, or it would make sense for the body, when you perceive hunger of the body, to cook, a meal. So yes, there is obviously a doing. The body mind is active. There is activity. It's not like a stone or like a chair. The body mind is sentient, so it is active. If you don't do anything, you just sit, after a while, your body starts to express, I need to walk. There may be pain in your hip or pain in your legs. So then you perceive the pain. You are not the pain. You perceive the pain. You're not the body, but you perceive the body pain in the back. So you move the body. You stretch, you go for a walk, or you go for a swim, whatever. So that's if that was your question, yes, we do. There is a lot of doing you do, but it depends moment by moment. Also, Hari, we may have some ideas that arise to us. Oh, I would love to visit Paris. Okay. I'd like to visit Paris. So then this becomes interesting. You say, oh, wow, yeah, I would like to visit Paris. So then you start to look at your schedule. You start to look at the costs, of the trip, and you may organize a trip to visit Paris. So there is also an internal, there is the mind that is also appearing to you. The body is appearing to you, and then the world is appearing to you. The world meaning you are at home and the bell rings. So what do? You get up and you open the door. So there is the world also. You are at home and the windows are open and it starts to rain. And some of the rain is starting to come through the windows. So of course you're going to get up and you're going to close the windows. So the world is also happening. And you are interacting as the body mind is an interactive organism. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
And also, we are interested in peace and happiness. So we're also looking at, okay, why is this unhappy? Why is this going on like this? Why am I feeling depressed? Why am I feeling lonely? Why? So there is also this internal weather, the internal panorama that's appearing to us, which is inviting us to contemplate, to inquire, which is also a form of doing. And this is actually what we're doing here in these meetings, besides just enjoying being together.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for answering my question. Because I got like really confused, like reading a few like articles and like listening to a few people, and they said, yeah, there's nothing to be done. You will do what you were meant to do anyway. Everything follows in the universe, the physical law, and you alone exist, and you just observe and things like that. Like so.
No, it sounds like fatalistic. It doesn't sound happy. It doesn't sound joyful. No, it sounds like sort of being a subject to. No, we are consciousness as awareness, as there is something marvelous about being, the joy of being, of creativity, of communicating, of sharing, of exploring, of playing, of contemplating. This is joyful. Yes, so it's not, that's an interim understanding. It's not a complete understanding, not a complete teaching that there is nothing to do and no one to do anything. It's true that there is no separate self, that there is no separate doer, that I am not the instrument. But as consciousness, as awareness, is complete creativity and infinite potential, which is magnificent.
Yeah, that is beautiful and hopeful. Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, more. I mean, it's kind of motivating to, at least for self-inquiry. Yeah.
Yes, and yeah. So sometimes when we are listening to a teaching and it creates a certain doubt in us, so we probe, we probe, and as we are probing, at some point we come to an understanding that resonates with us. We say, yeah, that makes sense. It's an opening that we experience, a little opening, and that's how the understanding progresses. Any questions?
Hi there. If you can.
Hello, Mari.
Hi. I have a related. It's related to that confusion, because I would get very stuck with that, the non-doer thing, and there's nobody there, and in relation to, say, if someone has, let's just say, committed a crime, or there's been an assault or something of that nature, then I would get confused listening to the non-dual teachings, because it seemed like one would have to say, well, that didn't really happen, or nobody really did that. So,
Right.
you know, kind of what do I have to heal from then in that case? But listening to you, I think my understanding is, I mean, there's still these interactions of body minds that are going on.
Yes.
And one has to deal with that on that level. And I think I've been listening to some of your recordings, and you use the word to honor, you know, whatever is coming up, to honor that. And I could really relate to that word, like, when I see it as honoring whatever is coming up in my experience, in my body, in my intuition, and you know, whether that involves reaching out for help or therapy or whatever. But then there's the ultimate level of, you know, seeing the I, what you're talking about, the absolute I. So that is also going on. So it doesn't discount, I think.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes, yes, I understand what you're saying. Yes, it's true. Yes, yes. So there is the world. I mean, we're living in relationship. We're living. There are certain situations that we're experiencing. We're perceiving. So there is that dimension, and of course, we don't know ahead of time. We don't know ahead of time what's going to unfold. What's going to unfold, you know, tomorrow, day after, whatever. But then at that level is to sort of we are there to sort of be there. I mean, we already are there in whatever situation is occurring. Here we are. Somebody's insulting us. We're there. So the question becomes how to be with it. Not like, oh, nothing is happening, you know. No, nothing is happening is a different conversation. There is something happening. How to be with that? So traditionally, you know, we are identified as ourself, and we have so many internal, maybe subliminal beliefs and notions about ourselves, how we should be, how people should treat us, and how the world should be, how others should be, how life should be. And suddenly here we are, somebody's insulting us. They're violating all the, you know, they're violating our code. How to be with that? We don't know. I mean, we don't know. It's presenting itself in that moment. So we insult them back. They get irritated and they throw their shoe at us, and we throw our shoe at them. And we see, oh, wait a minute, that's not, none of it is happy. None of it is happy. It's just making the situation worse. And so, you know, in non-duality, sometimes we share that thoughts appear to us. We are not choosing this particular thought. The thought appears to us. And our actions, our behavior, usually is a result of various thoughts that appear to us, and then we have thought A, thought B, thought C, thought D, and then we decide, well, I'm going to go with thought C. I'm going to eat the whole pint of ice cream. Been there, done that. So in terms of like, we choose thought C, but it's because the way we choose thought C is because thought D appears to us and says, thought C is the way to go. So when we look at that process, we realize, wait a minute, so there isn't a personal chooser. It's as if somehow these thoughts are appearing, and one of these thoughts becomes the thought that says, go this way. Meaning, there are no personal thoughts. All thoughts are impersonal. So wait a minute, if all thoughts are impersonal, therefore that person that is insulting me now is actually, they're not willing or wishing this thought. They're not willing or wishing this action. And yet here they are, they're manifesting it. Obviously, they're manifesting it. To comprehend, to understand that they are not willing or wishing this thought does not eliminate the fact that they are manifesting it. It eliminates in the fact that they are intentionally wanting my harm, wanting to insult me. They're still insulting me, but I understand they're not personally willing or wishing to insult me. So if they're insulting me, and I realize that they're not willing or wishing to insult me, then I have less of a feeling that I want to get back at them, that they're the evil, they're the bad guy. There is also another understanding or pointer in non-duality, which is that I is not the body-mind Mary, I is not the body-mind Magdi. That I is awareness, I is consciousness. And consciousness doesn't get insulted. There is no rule in consciousness that says, do not insult me. There is a rule in the body-mind thoughts that arise, don't insult me. You insult me, I'm gonna get you. But as consciousness, it's an open, transparent field. So if you also come to that understanding, Mary, you realize they're insulting, they have an image that they're insulting, but I'm not an image. In fact, I used in the past to be very short-tempered and irritable type of guy, and everybody had my brother had to watch out, don't irritate Magdi. There's been such a change. Now you can call me whatever insult you want to call me. It doesn't land anywhere. You see, it doesn't land anywhere. Because this understanding is no longer wavering. I no longer take myself to be whatever. I have no ideas and images about myself, because consciousness is images and ideas free. It is formless, the formless reality of what I is. So you are right, in the world you are navigating the world, and there is also the non-dual teaching. But at some point they start to come together. There is in the non-dual teaching a living aspect of that. It pertains to our life. It is not just some understanding, there is no one and nothing to do. No, no. It is a lived understanding. And you live it in the moment. And the general rule about living your understanding, the non-dual understanding, is as you live your non-dual understanding, your life, it becomes happier and happier, smoother, easier. That is the indication of your non-dual understanding. It is not that you are such a great Advaitic, I don't know, a champion in Advaita. No, it is that your life is more and more a life of peace and happiness. And of course, it affects the people around you. And in life, once we comprehend that I am awareness and all is awareness, then that same consciousness, we live and we live with others with the recognition that they are the same consciousness that we are. That's the base understanding. And of course, moment by moment, we respond to the situation, whichever way it presents itself. If a situation presents itself where it's a sweet and loving relationship, then yes. And if the situation presents itself where it is a dissonant relationship and there is no way to sort of move towards the light and towards happiness, then we don't want to proceed in that direction. You follow?
I do. I'm also wondering about sort of the lasting effects of. So a lot of people are getting stuck in the lasting effects of abuse and things like that.
Oh,
the actions that have been taken,
yes,
either recently or a long time ago.
Yes.
And then this approach seems to kind of almost overlook that stuff in a way.
Yes. Well, you know, it's important to understand that abuse is part, not just abuse and also the absence of abuse, happiness is part of the body-mind. It is part of the body-mind experience. Sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's rainy, sometimes it's hail, sometimes there is hail, sometimes there is thunder and lightning, and the beautiful oak tree in the yard, which is healthy and beautiful, can get struck by lightning, and then it's no longer. So, pardon. So abuse belongs and pertains to the body-mind. Now, the ego, the sense of me, as it's developing and there is abuse, that sense of me which is developing gets affected. It develops certain defensive or certain offensive or certain denial. There are various impacts of abuse upon the ego. And they can be express themselves and be throughout our life. And in these cases, of course, then the therapy, there are therapies, there are techniques that can be helpful. And of course, if there is a therapist that has a non-dual understanding as well, then this is the direction that I would go. But at some point, it is possible that the ego, as it navigates through all of that, you come to a place where you can comprehend that, okay, there has been trauma, and there are effects of this trauma in the body-mind, but that there is also something else besides the trauma at the level of the body-mind. There is consciousness. So that there comes a point where you can, the body can function with the trauma, and you are able, with the trauma still within the body-mind, to contemplate your true nature. So, in short, there is a trauma that up to a certain point, it interferes with your capacity to maybe live, but also interferes with the capacity to contemplate that I am awareness. Because the echo of the trauma can't allow you, doesn't release you, doesn't allow you to get beyond it. And there comes a point where, in spite of the trauma and the echo of the trauma, you are capable of contemplating your true nature. One thing that I would like to share is that you don't need to get rid of all the traces of the trauma. In the body, when you get a wound, there is a, how do you call it? There is a cicatrice. How do you say cicatrice? A what?
A scar?
Like a little line that remains on your body.
A scar?
A scar, yes, thank you. There is a scar. So also in the psychological aspect of the self, in trauma, there is a scar. A scar is not just like the whole trauma is gone. There is some aspect of the trauma. But the thing I wanted to share with you, Mary, is that you don't need to get rid of the trauma. It's not actually possible. You can live with trauma because at some point you realize that the trauma belongs at the body-mind level, and that the body-mind level is universal. It's not limited. That the body that initially was more limited expands in your understanding, and you come to the understanding of the body that contains trauma, your personal trauma, but also everybody's trauma, the trauma of all of humanity. All of humanity is also contained within that universal body, but also the light of being, God's light, is also contained within that body. And God light is very, very bright. And you can be aware of some trauma. Like I am aware of some trauma. Sometimes I can sense it, sense that aspect, so fragile, the fragility, that fragility aspect of the being. And it's there. And it's somehow, in my case, I am aware that it had its function. It had its place somehow in my life. It was part of the path, part of the journey. We don't need to end and get stuck in the trauma. And everybody has trauma, all of us, in one way or the other, some form of trauma. Because we are love, we are beauty, and as personal selves, we don't act, towards each other and towards the earth. We don't act from the love and from the beauty. We act from the sense of lack and the fear. And so that creates trauma. So there is an aspect of our understanding where we accept, we allow, and we forgive. We accept that it's all doing is God's doing. We don't need to understand it. We cannot understand it. The mind is limited. It cannot understand the unlimited. We accept because we are the recipient. We are God's recipient. And we forgive in that we don't hold on. Like the wide open sky doesn't hold on to the clouds. It doesn't hold on to the tornadoes, to the, And it's so beautiful that we can do that. You follow, Marie?
Yes, I do. I thank you. There's a lot to digest there. So thank you.
Yes. Any questions? Well, it's so beautiful to be with you all. So thank you, Holger, Esther, Marie, Vijay, Holly, George, Trish, Jenny, Harry. Nice to meet you, Harry. Hola, Maria. And Kelly. Hey, hello, Charlie. And Zoe and Aya. Very beautiful. Thank you all.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.